Today is Friday, August 11th, and I'm going to make another video because I can't find anyone in real life that wants to pay attention to my garden as much as I do. So the purpose of this video is so that in the winter I can reminisce about how beautiful and lovely the garden is, and I can also remember the things I wanted to change or do differently for next year, or new things I wanted to try. Because I might not be thinking of it and can't remember it, and then if I think of it now, it's too late in the season to try a lot of these things. So this is another one of my babies. This is a bunch of different cherry tomato plants. I built that trellis, I think, in March, and I painted it, and it's like 5 feet tall, I think. Maybe just a hair under. But it's way too short. I think that the tomato plants are about 7 or 8 feet high. But I wanted to point out, this little guy is actually not a tomato plant at all. This is a currant plant. Oh, look, here's one. This is the first one that I saw. Good. Okay, so anyway, this is a currant, but the rest of them are like cherry tomatoes. Like, these are like some beautiful little yellow pear ones, and it's just loaded. One of this guy, I don't know what this is, but he's too big. But whatever. Oops, I can't see. This guy right here. Yep, that one, too big. But whatever. It's way tall, and a couple problems. The catastrophe. The catastrophe happened last weekend. The tops got too big and heavy and they fell down. So I tied them up on Tuesday and they look pretty good, but they just want to spread out at the top and they just fall down. So I tried to figure out how to water them, because they actually are a lot of tomato plants in really small space. So I took a sprinkler and I turned it upside down and I hung it on one of these like rows, but that actually blew away the soil, and even though it was only on for 10 minutes, and then kind of exposed some of the roots, I think that you can see like over by this little guy. So this is a volunteer tomato plant, this one, that came from work. At least its parents, this last year's parents, were a Super Sweet 100, so I think it's going to be that. This little guy came up from the compost, and I just didn't want to cull him out or get rid of him, so we're gonna let him grow. And this, I think, is a pepper plant that the same thing happened. So we'll keep those little guys. There used to be like some squashy looking things, but they kind of died. But anyway, this is kind of too short. Real tall. These are my celery. I think there were like 72 or so celery, so a little much. But so I harvested some to give them some more space because they're a little crowded. But yeah, so I made like a celery pesto. I'm gonna make I made hummus so I could dip the celery in it, and then I'm gonna make like a cream of celery soup. But anyway, so next year, I think that this is a little raised bed that I made last year. I think that what I'm gonna do with that is I'm gonna plant some things that can kind of overwinter. So like, we just gotta take another look at my baby. Oh. Anyway, some things that can overwinter, like, for example, beets, carrots, kale. I think all those seeds will do well. Keep it covered with like a little cover, and it'll stay warm and hopefully sprout early in the spring. These are my totally organic garlic. Nothing traditional has touched them. All organic, mostly from garlic bought from the Common Ground Fair. One bad thing that happened is I didn't realize that you're supposed to stop watering garlic 2 weeks before harvest, and I watered them for a really long time last weekend. So 2 weeks from now, I guess I'll harvest them. I have a few different varieties. Music is my favorite hardneck garlic that stores. I got some from a client last year, and I was so happy with the way that it stored and the way that it sprouted, and so it's just beautiful. So, but that came from the Common Ground Fair. That's Music. Supposedly some of this is soft neck. I don't believe it. It doesn't look braidable to me. Way in the back. And then this is all like little bulbul garlic from the plants from last year that I forgot to take the tops and the scapes off because I was busy or dying or something. So these are 2 onions that sprouted last year before I got them into storage, and so I just planted them, and so they had the beautiful flowers. I think that's my issue. I don't harvest garlic early enough. So I pretty much harvest it and plant it like all on the same day, and that's obviously too late, so my bulbs fall apart and are too, yeah, they sprout and don't store well. So I think that this year is going to be better. Where'd it go? Oh, I guess maybe I stepped on it. Anyway, in here is an extra ground cherry they had that I just threw in the ground, so I think either I stepped on it or a deer did. These are my raspberries. They're gone by now, pretty much. They usually start around my birthday, so about a month ago, but today they're pretty much gone by, but I did pick a few. One thing that I found this year, seeing as how I had these other gardening things here, I was watering a lot over here, which I normally do not, and I believe that the day and the day after you water, it looks like it makes the berries about 20% larger, so I would recommend doing that next year to myself. Let's see. That's my Japanese beetle trap, new this year, working pretty good. Oh, this is a black raspberry that I stole from work. It's already gone by, but makes black raspberries. So the little inside stays in them if they are a blackberry, but if they are a raspberry, the inside is out and the berry is hollow. I want to steal the big yellow berries from work as well and plant some of those over here as well so that they are big and beautiful, because those are super sweet and they're huge. Oh, I am just going to run through my babies over here. I believe I'm going to harvest my first little tomato today. So these are way taller than me now. These are really big. One other problem I have, or just one that I found, this tomato can't come out. It's too narrow. It's bigger on both sides, but look at these big beauties. Oh, they're so beautiful. Look at them back there. It's like a little jungle safari tour. But they are beautiful. I don't even know if this little guy recovered some from his little wilt scare or what, but look at how big these are. Oh. So I'm thinking about making a cage like this, welding it, obviously, for next year, and then you can cover like the whole thing with like a plastic sheet. So it's like a little mini greenhouse when you start them outside, maybe like 3 weeks earlier than you could normally, and then I could cover it up at the end of the year and prevent them from getting frost. The other thing I did, that's my only tomato that I bought, that Better Boy right there, and he looks wimpy, but the plant I had there died or something. So here's an orange tomato. It's just starting to ripen right here. Hi. But what I did was I stole from Home Depot. I pretended I was looking at cabinets or countertops, and I stole these samples, and then I wire tied them on, and they made awesome possum little signs. So this is the first tomato I'm going to pick, and I'm probably going to pick it today. This is an old German, surprise, from not my biggest plant, but it looks old. It's redder than I thought than the old Germans would be, but I wanted to pick it now because I'm going to spray for blight tonight, because it's just been so moist and damp and humid and slightly rainy that I just don't want them to die. But there are these guys. So here's another thing. My tomatoes, even with their big, strong, thick, sturdy stalks, I'm worried that he's going to fall down and break, like the catastrophe that happened over there. I tied him back up, but so I need to restart tying, and I'm redoing my little wire ties and whatnot. Here is a little Brandywine. Soon going to be big enough or ripe enough to pick. We got some good size on some of these guys. Look at that. Okay, so this Amana orange, oh my gosh. I have never seen, it's so well pollinated. Look at that. Look, every little branch is just filled with a cluster of tomatoes. Look at these little guys. Oh, they're so beautiful. Look, and they got more blossoms just to coming. I'm going to try to maybe hybridize some or something. Like, I like the stems of the old German, and I like the color of the orange ones. I don't know what I'll do. One thing I saw that to help them pollinate is you can kind of, because they're pollinated by wind, you can kind of tickle them and it knocks the pollen from up here down into the like female parts of them. So you just kind of tickle them like this. Hello, like you're scratching a little catchin. Hello. And maybe it'll knock it down and maybe it'll pollinate. I don't know. But I got to blight spray these because it's just so damp. This is the one that I crushed when I put up the thing, so it looks kind of crappy, but whatever. I think those are Celebration tomatoes, which I think were Grandnana's favorite, but look at all the blossoms. Look at all those guys. I thought I saw a red one in here. I don't know. But anyway, they look good. I also found out that onions need 3 to 4 inches of rain per week. So I've been trying to make up for it, so I put extra soaker hoses on there because they were only getting like 1 inch a week. Now this little guy, I don't know why he's kind of red, but that's cool because his neighbors aren't and his little family members aren't. But the other thing I read is that onions are supposed to grow so that they have 11, or sorry, no, grow to have 13 little things like this, and the most that mine ever have is 11. So I don't know if I needed to get them like 11 leaves. I don't know if I needed to get them in the ground earlier. Let's see. Broccoli pretty much gone by, so I'm gonna I'm gonna transplant the little ones I planted already over to here. I'm trying to blanch out a cauliflower just for funsies. Cabbages are doing great. Garlic, you know that. Let's see. Okay, these are my green beans. There were green beans here that I planted on May 15th, but they've gone by. I picked them all, pulled them up on Tuesday, and I planted new seeds. And so hopefully these will start growing and I can harvest end of September or something like that. Again, my second crop of beets are doing good over here. And my carrots, the other thing about carrots is you can plant them now and harvest them in the fall. And so I might try to do that. Where the deer ate the beets, they're kind of growing back well. And one thing you'll see that there's a lot of leaves missing in my zucchini. Last week, I pruned them, so I actually cut any of the leaves that were blocking flowers so the little bees could find them and pollinate them. And so my summer squash and zucchini are looking much better. Found out that the potatoes are russets, the one closest to the summer squash. And believe it or not, I gave away 11, I think, zucchinis and summer squash at work this week. And I have way more, and we ate some, and it's just crazy. So I think, unfortunately, I'm getting a little bit of, like, I think they call it powdery mildew or something. I think that might be that. Might be what's on those leaves. Might be what's rotting this little guy. He looks like he's melting. But the interesting thing is that I just pruned them, and look, there's new growth. And I wanted to look over here. Okay, this was the first part of this summer squash plant. You'd think that it would be all done like over here. Look, new flower, new growth from back, the part that happened way long ago, at the beginning of the summer. So what I'm trying to say is we're getting new growth starting over. I think it's going to extend our season. Our peppers are looking divine. I want to make some chili rellenos with my little poblanos. They look so fun. They're almost 3.5 feet tall. My tomatillas are huge. Not too many of them down at the bottom, but tons of blossoms. These guys are looking good. These guys are looking good. My other green beans, shell beans look good. Some of those look okay, or at least alive. These guys are almost actually gone by as well. That's the one I planted second. Potatoes, beans are growing up. The deer came again. I don't know if we're going to eat corn. And we got a little fallen soldier on our eggplant. It's very sad. Tragically, this scarlet runner has lost his support. So I don't know what he's going to do. Ernie doesn't look good. The leaves look like crap. I think it's casualty from the deer. In other news, the stalks of the Jerusalem artichoke look very strong. And they're really tall. I hope that they do flower. These guys have brightened up again, the rhubarb. I still don't know what those plants are, but they're blooming. Oh, my cucumbers look so darn good. I pruned them the same way that I did as the zucchini. And I pruned them pretty aggressively down at the bottom so that all these beautiful blossoms, you can just see so many blossoms. Look at them. Oh my gosh, there's millions of them. Can be pollinated by our little bee friends. And you can just, I mean, it's kind of damp now, so they aren't out and it's the evening, but you can literally hear the bees buzzing. And I'm getting quite a few. Look at them. Oh my goodness. And they just hang down and they're so straight and they're looking good and plenty of water. I can pick some of these little radishes. My carrots probably could use more sun back there, but whatever. So those are my broccoli I'm going to transplant. Bok choy. Look at those flowers. I'm surprised there's no bees out there. Anyway, there's just so many. They just love it. Look at that radish. That looks pretty good. He likes growing in the shade. I saw a little froggy in here over at night. Cut my arugula. And look how beautiful these are hanging. Oh, looks so good. There's so many. Look at the big guy in there. I've picked a few. I guess this video is quite long, but I might as well give you the quick little tour of the island of misfit tomato plants. So here I have some prototypes for some different tomato plant cages. This little guy is just a little fence. I think he's holding like 2 or 3 plants. I didn't do a good job of fertilizing them or watering them or anything like that, but they're okay. This is my prototype of the 2 tomato cages on top of each other. Kind of like make a little hourglass shape. Looks pretty good. Just tied this one together with wire ties. This little guy I welded together, and he looks pretty good. And I have basically one like little branch growing up each of the vertical ones. I feel that tomato plants need a wide, or the cages need a wide base, and they grow up in a conical shape. So essentially to keep the cage up and to support their branching upper branches, you kind of need an hourglass shaped cage. So I tried to make one out of branches and cable ties. It only took me like a half hour to cut the branches, measure them, and tie them together with really terrible looking cable ties, but that looks pretty sturdy. This one I just put 4 stakes in the ground and I tied colorful string around it. This tomato plant has a ton of branches. I didn't prune it. It's not very tall. It's very bushy, but not a lot of tomatoes. The one sunflower that came up, a bunch of sunflowers came up, slugs ate them. And this one, I'm growing them up a string, and I also planted, too late of course, a scarlet runner bean. So I think it would be really cool to plant scarlet runners and a single stalk of tomatoes, and I think it'd be neat with them up like that. These are wild cucumbers. I stole the seeds from an apple orchard a couple years ago, and I planted them, and they look really cool. They're really tall. They grow a lot. I think there's just 3 plants down there, but these are my babies, and I'm pretty happy with it. This year, I do need to weed it. I haven't weeded it for like a week, but that's it today. Oh, I also planted some basil, that's it, in some of the empty spots in the garden, because hopefully my basil will come up better, but that's it. And if I think of anything else, I'll do another video.